Are you tired of suffering yet? Tired of being depressed, being angry and frustrated? Well, let me tell you something. You didn't suffer because God wanted you to. You suffered because somewhere inside you forgot your own power. Because you accepted stories that told you pain was your purpose and turned away from your light. The world didn't break you. You let your own limiting beliefs silence the truth inside you. But that's where healing begins. When you stop blaming and start remembering who you are. I'm truly grateful you're here. Please like, share, and subscribe to join this journey of divine inspiration and real transformation.
Why do you think you're suffering? Or why are you suffering? So can you answer that question, why you're suffering, without blaming anybody out there and without blaming God? Can you do it? Probably not. Because you haven't been taught how to do it. So we know that God, or our Creator, source energy, the essence of being, limitless, universal consciousness, awareness, doesn't get angry. And an all-loving Creator doesn't make mistakes. So I like to preface if you believe. If you believe and understand that we were a spiritual being before we became a physical being, and in the spiritual realm, we had a conversation with our Creator, spiritual essence, to say, I would like this spiritual being to be my parents. I would like this spiritual being to be my siblings. I would like this spiritual being to be my family. So remember, every single physical being on the planet, including animals and aliens, were physical beings, were spiritual beings, and they chose. So as a spiritual realm, as a spiritual being in the spiritual realm, you chose who you wanted your parents and your family to be. And then you chose the experiences before you came. And we do that if you believe what I'm about to tell you. The reason that our Creator put us here on the physical realm is so we could experience things to help or to assist our Creator to expand the universe or the world for the good. But in order to help or assist the Creator to expand for the good, we have to do a lot of bad. We have to there's a lot of going to be bad, right? Because how can you expand the world for the good without knowing what suffering is, without knowing what disease is, without knowing what murder is, without knowing all the negatives? Even though our Creator, God, is totally neutral. God doesn't label anything. Nothing is labeled. That's why I said that we can't judge something or someone without first judging ourselves. We can't get mad at somebody or something without getting mad at ourselves first. If you believe that, this is where all your suffering comes from. So if you know that there's no labels and God doesn't know anything about labels, everything's neutral. And I believe that once we connect with labels, then that causes a lot of suffering. Because you ask yourself, if you take away the labels, if you take away your race, if you take away your gender, if you take away autism or ADHD or Down syndrome, if you take away disabled or missing a limb, if you take all those away and just believe that you are just as God sees you, perfect and whole and loving, would you struggle if you saw yourself as God saw us? Would you? Would you suffer knowing that you have a congenital heart disease, or you have cancer, or you've been diagnosed with PTSD or schizophrenia or kidney disease or liver disease, which by the way, I have been diagnosed with all those? Would you continue to suffer, if you know that God, the essence of the Almighty, the Holy One, the spiritual realm, would you still suffer knowing that God sees you as perfect? And you should see yourself as perfect. I see myself as perfect. If you could get there, because I know that a lot of people that were brought up in the church, and by the way, I was brought up Catholic, but I've also been brought up Catholic. I was christened as a Catholic, and I went to confirmation. but I've also been baptized as a Baptist, as a Lutheran, as a Methodist, as a Church of Christ, as a Christian. So obviously I was searching, right? And I believe that the essence puts people on a certain path for us to become awakened to what experiences we chose to do in this world. Because I believe that when I was born, I believe that I knew I was here for a reason. Kids made fun of me, and I was constantly bullied because I knew I was different. I knew I was special. I knew I was holy. I knew I had a connection with the divine, but I didn't know how to use it. And I kind of got stuck and bullied, outcast, name calling, you name it. It was done. Until I got really, really angry, and I was abused by an elder in a church. And when I told the staff what happened, no one believed me. Everyone believed the elder. And that went downward, and all my negative emotions and all my stress and all my frustration and all my anger at this specific person and myself ended up in being diagnosed with numerous different diseases, terminal and incurable diseases. At this point, it's well over 3 dozen incurable and terminal diseases. But so I needed to go down a path and constantly ask questions. Who is this God that I brought up in Catholic and Baptist and all those other religions? Who is it? Who is it? And who is this person they call Jesus? Who is it? And why am I following them if I have no idea who they are? And what is the Bible about? And how come the ancient Egyptians say that there was over 700 books in the Bible, and why there's only 66 books in our Bible? And then it went down to the rabbit hole where how come King James and Constantine were bribing people, the Bible authors, what book to put in the Bible, what book to keep out, just based on money. And then I was like, well, why are some religions not letting women or females preach based on what they said 3 million years ago? Oh, because the culture back then, they didn't believe women should do anything. So why are we believing what people said in the Bible over 3,000, 5,000 years ago about women not being able to preach, when that was a different culture? This culture is different. Why are we still believing that? Why are people believing that? I couldn't wrap my head around it. I mean, I was studying and reading and studying, and I was like, at one point I had encyclopedias and books all over my desk and trying to connect the dots. And guess what? The dots never connected. I could not connect the dots between what was in the Bible, what was in science, and what was in metaphysical and quantum physics. I just couldn't figure it out. I couldn't connect it until I added a couple of different books. Hinduism and Buddhism and even Native American spiritual healing. And once I added all those books into my preview, then it started to make sense. And once I started studying different philosophies, like Stoicism, which is one of my favorites, then it made sense. It made the dots that were over here and the dots that were over here, and they never made sense. When I added this ancient philosophies, the Hinduism, the Buddhism, Native Americans, and all those other ones, then the dots kind of got closer and closer and closer and closer. Until so much so that of those 3 dozen incurable and terminal diseases I was diagnosed with, I don't have any more. And I didn't use any medical treatment. I said to myself, well, if Jesus Christ, that is not even his name. His real name, he was born with Yahshua, and he spoke Aramaic. So I don't understand why the Bible speaks Greek and Hebrew, because Yahshua didn't speak Greek or Hebrew, he spoke Aramaic. And the words that he spoke in Aramaic are mistranslated in the Bible. And I don't know why we would change Yahshua's name, because when people write stories about real people, they don't change the name of the real person. They keep the name of the real person. So I don't know why. I think that was maybe the Constantine or King James who was bribing people. Anyway, let's not go. Okay, suffering. Let's get back to suffering. So if we know that, I know, if we don't label it, if we see that God doesn't label anything, God is all neutral, and God sees us as perfect, and God's focus is on healing us, as it states in the Bible. Ask, knowing you received, and you shall receive. So it's not like Church of Christ at the end of the service. People would raise their hand or write their prayers on a card, and they would get up and ask someone, tell someone's going through a hard time here, pray, right? But that's wrong. Sorry, that's not what I believe, because the Bible states that you go into the secret place to meet with the divine to heal, right? So why are we standing up in front of a congregation? Why are we writing our prayers on the card? Why are we asking for prayer on a prayer hotline when it says clearly, go into the secret place and meet the divine, and the divine will heal us. I don't believe that we should kneel down and do this. Oh God, I'm going through all this stuff. Please heal me, I beg you. Nope. That's not what the Bible says. Ask, knowing you have received it. You will receive it. That's why we're suffering. We're not doing, if you believe the Bible as the Bible, and this is not only the Bible, this is other books that were taken out of the Bible that says the exact same thing. The Gospel of Thomas, the autobiography of Yogi, the Buddhist, the Hindu. They all believe this ask, knowing you'll receive, and you will receive, not begging. So, for instance, when I was diagnosed with cancer, I had a little pity party, and then I was like, no. If I'm supposed to be like Jesus, because Jesus wasn't, if you believe, or maybe you could think outside the box and say, hey, Jesus really wasn't looking for followers. He was telling us how we heal ourselves. How do we heal ourselves? By knowing that we're already healed before we go to God in prayer. We're already healed, and being grateful for what we have. So if you're dealing with some illness, some disease that you have, because when you were in a spiritual being, you chose that you were going to have it in the physical being.
And what if that knowing is exactly how your healing begins? Continue the journey in part 2. Divine inspiration changes everything, and this is where your true healing starts, within.